Your military title means nothing inside my house. Get on your knees and put your hands behind your back." Police Chief Nolan Pike barked the order into the blinding white light of his own campaign camera. 2 patrol officers stood behind me with their hands near their holsters. A red livestream counter climbed past 12,000 viewers. My mother stood 6 feet away in her winter coat, gripping the handle of a packed suitcase so tightly her fingers had turned white. Nolan pointed at her without taking his eyes off me. "Tell them, Susan. Tell the entire county you never called her." My mother's lips trembled. I had 2 missed calls from her, a text that said use the red key. Come alone, and the brass key itself still locked inside my fist. But Nolan had her medication bag in one hand, her phone in the other, and an election to save. "I never called Avery," my mother whispered. The lie hit harder than the handcuff that snapped around my right wrist seconds later. Nolan smiled for the camera, not a broad smile. He was too disciplined for that. It was a small, satisfied tightening at the corner of his mouth, the look of a man watching a trap close exactly where he had placed it. He thought the live stream had captured the first record of the night. He had no idea 2 patrol cars had been waiting on that street before any emergency call existed. He had no idea his campaign camera had stored 8 minutes he never intended the public to see. And he had absolutely no idea that the 4-star general he would later invite to publicly humiliate me was going to look across a packed county hall, recognize my face, and ask one question that would crack his entire performance open. Major General Shaw? By the end of that town hall, Nolan's endorsement card would be lying face down, his own sergeant would be standing against him, and 11 minutes and 43 seconds of hidden preparation would begin tearing apart his badge, his campaign, and every lie he had wrapped around my mother. But that night, beneath the campaign lights, he still believed I was only the quiet stepdaughter he had spent 33 years teaching the family to dismiss. To understand why he was so certain I would stay quiet, you have to understand the house I grew up in. Nolan entered our lives when I was 16. He arrived wearing a Northbridge patrol uniform and carrying a polished silver badge he made sure everyone noticed. The first night my mother brought him home, he unclipped it from his belt and dropped it onto the kitchen counter with a heavy metallic crack. My mother jumped. Nolan laughed. "Relax, Susan. It is only authority." That sentence should have warned us. Instead, my mother poured him another drink. I sat across the room with an acceptance letter to the Air National Guard folded inside my jacket. I had spent 3 months preparing for the entrance exam. Nolan spent less than 3 seconds looking at the letter. "So you are going to fix radios on weekends? I am going into communications." He leaned back and smiled at my mother. At least she finally found something practical. My mother nodded as if he had complimented me. He did not ask about the scholarship or why I wanted to serve. From that night forward, every achievement was translated into language small enough for his ego. Officer training became a weekend class, cyber operations became computer repair. A command billet became paperwork. When I pinned on my 2nd star, he told neighbors I had received another administrative promotion. He knew what the rank meant. He simply could not tolerate a hierarchy that placed me above him. By the time he became police chief, he had built his entire public identity around 3 words: family, order, protection. At campaign events, he placed one hand on my mother's shoulder and described their marriage as proof that strong men created safe homes. At home, he controlled the passwords, the bank statements, the thermostat, the car keys, and the explanation after every argument. A cracked plate became clumsiness, a bruise became the corner of a cabinet. A missing phone became an accident near the sink. Every time I asked my mother whether she wanted help, she gave me the same exhausted answer. Not yet. I responded the way I had been trained to respond to a failing network. I built contingencies, a private bank account in her name, a list of shelters, a spare medication bag, a small apartment she could use for 30 days, and a brass copy of the side door key wrapped in red parachute cord. One missed call meant Nolan was nearby and she wanted me to call later. 2 missed calls meant do not call back, come. For 3 years she never used the second signal. Then Nolan announced his campaign for Harrow County Sheriff. His consultants built the campaign around his marriage. Susan appeared in photographs, fundraising letters, and a commercial where Nolan promised to protect every family the way he protected his own. The advertisement was filmed in their kitchen. The same kitchen where my mother had once whispered that she sometimes waited until Nolan fell asleep before taking her blood pressure medication because he counted the pills. 12 days before the televised primary debate, Nolan learned she had spoken to a divorce attorney. His campaign had more than $600,000 in commitments tied to the police association endorsement. He was leading by 6 points. A public separation would destroy the image his consultants had spent a year manufacturing. That was when his fear stopped being private. It became operational. The afternoon before my arrest, Nolan called me from his official phone. "You have been putting ideas in your mother's head." "I have been answering her questions. She is confused." "She is frightened." His breathing changed, not louder. "Slower. You think those stars make you untouchable." "I think she is allowed to leave her own house. This is my house." "She bought it before she married you." The silence lasted 4 seconds. Nolan never forgot a sentence that made him feel small. "You come near my family," he said, "and I will treat you like any other threat." He ended the call. I documented the time and returned to a classified readiness briefing. 3 hours later, my phone lit up on the conference table. One missed call from my mother, then a second. Every sound in the room seemed to disappear. A message appeared beneath them: "Use the red key, come alone." I stood so quickly my chair rolled backward into the wall. A lieutenant colonel beside me looked up. "Ma'am?" "The deputy has the briefing," I said. I did not call Nolan. I did not call the Northbridge Police Department, and I did not call anyone in my command. My mother had asked me to come alone. At the time, I believed I was respecting her decision. I did not yet understand that Nolan had written those exact words for her. Or that 2 patrol cars, a campaign videographer, and a pair of handcuffs were already waiting before I reached the house. The first patrol car was parked half a block from my mother's house with its lights off. The second sat near the intersection behind a landscaping truck. Both faced the house. Across the street, a black campaign van idled beneath a dead street lamp. Its side door had not closed completely. I could see the metal foot of a tripod inside. No one moved when I turned onto the block at 9:23 and 8 seconds. That was the first part of the trap. They wanted me to believe I had arrived before it began. I parked 3 houses away. My phone showed no new message from my mother. Nolan had sent one: "Your mother is resting, do not create a problem." He always wrote incomplete sentences when he expected the words to be read by someone else. I took the red key from my pocket. The parachute cord had frayed near the knot. My mother had wrapped it herself 3 years earlier, sitting across from me in a coffee shop where she pretended she only wanted help setting up an email account. I crossed the street. The first patrol car's brake lights flashed once. Still no one approached, still no call on the radio. The side door key turned without resistance. Inside, the kitchen was brighter than I had ever seen it. A phone sat on a tripod beside the fruit bowl. A second camera rested on the counter. White tape marked 2 rectangles on the floor, one near the door. One beside the kitchen table. My mother stood inside the second rectangle wearing her coat. A suitcase rested at her feet. Her medication bag was not with her. Neither was her phone. "Mom." Her eyes moved toward the camera before they moved toward me. "You should not have come alone," she whispered. "You told me to." "I know, take the suitcase." She tightened her grip but did not move. Nolan stepped from the hallway in full uniform. His badge was polished. His campaign microphone was clipped inside his lapel. He wore no jacket, even though the house was cold, because the camera needed a clear view of the badge. He looked at the red key in my hand, then toward the dining room. Nolan placed 2 fingers against the transmitter beneath his lapel. Before the red indicator came on, a freight train crossed beyond the houses. 2 long horn blasts rolled through the kitchen, one short. One long. Outside, the patrol officers were already moving toward the side entrance. The phone on the tripod lit red. The live stream began. "You entered this home without permission," Nolan said. "My mother invited me." "No, she did not." I raised my phone. "I have the message." He did not look at it. He looked at my mother. "Tell her." Susan's face changed, not surprise, recognition. This was the moment he had rehearsed with her. "Tell her you did not call," Nolan said. My mother's fingers locked around the suitcase handle. "I never called you, Avery." The red light stayed steady. I heard the words. I also heard the space around them. Her rough breathing. The click of Nolan's thumbnail against her phone in his hand. A prescription bottle shifting inside the medication bag hanging from his other wrist. Mom, look at me. Nolan stepped between us. She has answered you. Give her the phone. This is my home. She bought it before she married you. His eyes hardened. There it was, the same sentence from our call. The same wound. A weekend computer officer does not outrank my badge in my own house. A man stepped from the dining room with a shoulder camera. Tyler Mott, Nolan's campaign videographer, he had been inside before I arrived. Tyler was not a neutral contractor. Nolan designed the trap. Tyler designed the record that would survive it. He had tested the crop, prepared the rapid response edit, and positioned the cameras so the public would see the handcuffs before it saw the suitcase, the medication bag, or the white tape. Chief Pike is responding to an escalating family disturbance, Tyler said toward the lens. The individual entered carrying what appears to be an unauthorized key. The camera moved toward my hand. I opened my fingers. Record the cord, I said. Record the text. Nolan reached for my phone. I moved it away. The patrol officers entered through the side door. Sergeant Leah Monroe came first. Her body camera was already blinking. Another officer followed with one hand near his holster. Monroe looked at the cameras, then at the white tape. Then at my mother's suitcase. Chief, what is the call? Trespass, possible elder intimidation. Has dispatch opened an event? Nolan's voice sharpened. Handle the threat in front of you. He pointed at me. I turned the phone toward Monroe. My mother sent this 23 minutes ago. Use the red key. Come alone. Monroe read it. Nolan spoke over her shoulder. Susan, did you send that voluntarily? My mother's eyes went to the medication bag. No, it was the second lie. The first one hurt. The second explained the first. I lowered the phone. Mom, do you want to leave with me? Her lips parted. Nolan lifted the medication bag slightly. She looked down. She is not going anywhere, he said. That is not your decision. It is my responsibility to protect her from coercion. Tyler moved closer. The camera was less than 4 feet from my face. Nolan's voice rose for the audience. Military title means nothing inside my house. Get on your knees and put your hands behind your back. Monroe turned toward him. Chief, she is not armed. She is refusing a lawful order. You have not given her one through us. Nolan's expression changed for less than a second. He was no longer directing a response. He was directing a scene, and one actor had missed her cue. Sergeant, place her under arrest for trespass and obstruction. I put my phone on the table, then the red key beside it. I will comply. Nolan stepped closer. On your knees. I said I will comply, then get down. The camera light reflected off his badge. I lowered myself onto the white tape he had placed for me. The old ache in my left knee from years of field deployments tightened when it touched the tile. I kept my face still. The second officer pulled my wrists behind my back. The first cuff closed. My mother made a sound I had never heard from her before. Not a word, a broken inhale. Nolan looked at her. Stay where you are. She did. The second cuff closed. Tyler shifted to capture the red key in the foreground and Nolan behind me. It was a campaign image before it was evidence. Monroe crouched beside me. Her voice was low. Ma'am, do you have any injuries? Know anything I need to know? Yes. I looked into her body camera. Preserve this recording. Preserve the dispatch creation time. Compare it to the location history of both patrol vehicles. Nolan laughed for the live stream. She is trying to intimidate officers with technical language. I kept my eyes on Monroe's camera. The officers were already on this street when I arrived. Nolan stepped between me and the lens. That is enough. He took my phone from the table. Monroe stood. Chief, that needs to be logged by the arresting officer. I am the complainant and the commanding officer. You are also holding the evidence. For the first time, Tyler's camera shifted away from me. It found Nolan. His smile disappeared. He handed the phone to Monroe. Log everything. Outside, camp volunteers had moved onto the sidewalk. One held a Pike for Sheriff sign behind the patrol car so Nolan's name remained visible as they pushed me into the back seat. The livestream comments raced across Tyler's monitor. Arrest her, military bully. Protect that poor mother. Nolan bent near the open car door. By sunrise, he said softly, your own command will be asking whether those stars were a mistake. Then he shut the door. At booking, the desk officer emptied the evidence envelope. My phone, the red key, the length of frayed cord. Nolan stood behind the counter even though Monroe had not finished her report. List the key as a suspected forced entry tool, he said. It fits the lock, Monroe replied. That does not make possession lawful. The message matters. My wife denied sending it voluntarily. Monroe looked at him, so we preserve both claims. Nolan's jaw shifted. He had expected obedience, not accuracy. The booking officer wrote suspected forced entry tool. Monroe added alleged invitation message preserved on device. Nolan read the line, then he walked into the interview room carrying a tablet. The campaign clip was already playing. It began with him ordering me onto my knees. It did not show the white tape. It did not show Tyler waiting inside. It did not show my mother looking at the medication bag. The edit ended with the handcuffs closing and Nolan turning toward Susan like a man who had saved her. The view count passed 100,000. You always needed people to know how important you were, he said. I did not tell them my rank. You did not have to. People like you carry rank into every room. He placed the tablet on the metal bench. A campaign donation alert flashed across the screen. $25,000 in the first hour. Nolan smiled. Tomorrow, the police association will stand with me. By noon, your command will step away from you. By the debate, no one will remember why you entered that house. He tapped the image of the red key. They will remember this. I looked at the frozen frame, my mother in the background. Her suitcase cut out, her medication bag cut out, the white tape beneath my knees cut out. He had removed every fact that made the arrest look prepared. But the original recording still existed somewhere. So did Monroe's body camera, so did the patrol cars whose arrival he had tried to hide behind silence. Nolan mistook the first story for the only story. That was the mistake arrogant men made when they had controlled a room for too long. They forgot the room had been recording them too. By sunrise, Nolan had been right about one thing. My command was asking questions. The arrest clip had crossed 3 million views before I appeared for arraignment. National outlets replayed the moment I lowered myself onto the white tape, but the tape had been cropped out. Commentators called it the image of a powerful general finally being forced to obey ordinary law. The word finally did most of the work. It suggested a history that did not exist. Nolan's campaign posted a donation graphic beside my handcuffed face. No one outranks the law. The police association moved its endorsement vote forward by 4 days. Nolan's lead rose from 6 points to 9 before breakfast. Dana Cho met me in the courthouse corridor, wearing a navy suit, and the expression of someone who had already found 3 fires and expected 6 more. She had served as counsel inside an inspector general's office before opening her civil rights practice. She understood the difference between a bad arrest and an arrest designed to survive long enough to destroy someone before the facts caught up. Do not answer the cameras, she said. I was not planning to. Do not correct your rank. They are already calling me a general. Let them. Nolan wants every accurate fact about you to sound like intimidation. She handed me a single sheet of paper. The charges were criminal trespass, obstruction, and attempted interference with a police investigation. Interference, I asked. Your preservation request to Monroe. He is calling that interference. He is calling it an order from a general to a subordinate police officer. She is not my subordinate. That will not matter in a 48-second segment. The prosecutor asked the judge to restrict my travel and make me surrender my military credentials. Dana stood. Harrow County did not issue those credentials, and the state has shown no evidence she used them. The judge denied the request. For 6 seconds, I thought we had stopped the collapse. Then my military phone vibrated inside Dana's evidence bag. The adjutant general was calling. I took the call in an empty consultation room. He did not raise his voice. That made it worse. Avery, the command has opened a formal review. I expected that. Until we understand the allegation, your access to the classified exercise network will be administratively suspended. The room seemed to narrow. The Chesapeake continuity exercise had taken 14 months to build. 3 states, 14 hospitals, 2 emergency management agencies, and a simulation of the largest ransomware failure our region had ever attempted. I had designed the command structure. I was scheduled to lead it in 6 days. Is this a security determination? I asked. A disciplinary action? No. Then what is it? A risk decision while facts are incomplete. Nolan's first record had reached my command before my evidence had reached a judge. The adjutant general continued, you will also step away from the public launch. Understood. Colonel Mercer will brief the press in your place. Colonel Mercer was 34. I had promoted her. She was ready. That did not make the removal hurt less. Sir, I did not invoke rank. I believe you understand what you did. Right now, belief is not the standard I can use. The call ended. Dana had been watching me through the glass. What did they take? Network access, public command of the exercise. For how long? Until the facts are clear, she looked toward the courthouse television. That is exactly how long Nolan needs. The screen changed. A new video had been released from the Shaw Pike kitchen. My mother sat alone at the table wearing the same coat from the night before. Her suitcase was gone. Nolan remained off camera. A typed statement rested in front of her. My daughter has been pressuring me to leave my husband and home, she read. Last night, she entered without my voluntary permission. I was frightened by her behavior. I asked the public to respect my emotional safety. Her voice broke on the final two words. My mother never said emotional safety. She said quiet, she said time, she said let me think. The camera remained on her after the statement ended. She looked to the left. Someone whispered, again. Slower, the video cut. Dana froze the frame. A shadow crossed the microwave door behind my mother. The outline of Nolan's shoulder. He left that in, I asked. He does not think anyone is looking behind the subject. The campaign posted the video with the words Susan speaks her truth. Within an hour, my mother's forced statement had more views than the arrest. That was the second collapse. The first record made me dangerous. The second made my mother confirm it. At noon, Nolan held a press conference outside police headquarters. He wore his dress uniform. Behind him stood 6 officers, the police association president, and a new campaign sign. Order begins at home. He announced that my own military command had removed me from a cyber operation. The written notice had not reached me. Dana leaned toward the television. How did he know? The decision itself had been made inside my chain of command. But changing the public launch meant a revised roster had gone to regional emergency management partners 21 minutes before Nolan stepped to the microphone. One Harrow County liaison had access to that update. Nolan looked directly into the camera. Even the military understands that authority requires accountability. Reporters shouted questions. One asked whether he had coordinated with my command. Nolan smiled. I will not discuss protected communications. He had just admitted enough to make the question worse. Then the police association president announced its endorsement. Applause broke behind him. Nolan's campaign total crossed $700,000 before the press conference ended. By 2 p.m, Colonel Mercer stood at the podium I had been scheduled to use. The Chesapeake Continuity Exercise banner behind her still carried the command motto I had approved. My photograph had been removed from the program website. A reporter asked Mercer whether the change proved the military had lost confidence in me. She paused. I knew the pause. She was trying to tell the truth without violating an order. The review is ongoing, she said. It was the correct answer. Online it became military refuses to defend disgraced general. Nolan reposted the headline within 4 minutes. Dana shut off the television. He is not reacting to events, she said. He is receiving them before the public does. Then preservation starts now. It started an hour ago. She had already sent preservation demands to every office that touched the video, the arrest records, the vehicle data, or the roster update. Native files, server logs, body cameras, internal messages. The notices went out less than 8 hours after my release, before routine deletion could become Nolan's next explanation. That afternoon, Sergeant Monroe finished her shift and walked into the squad room. She later told Dana that Nolan stood near the coffee machine surrounded by officers who had watched the press conference. Someone congratulated him on the endorsement. Someone else asked whether arresting a 2-star general had made him nervous. Nolan laughed. Nervous? He placed the red key evidence photograph on the table. I gave the general exactly enough rope to hang herself. A few officers laughed with him. Monroe did not. Nolan tapped the photograph. She came through my door, challenged my authority, and ordered my people to preserve evidence like she was commanding a battlefield. She asked me to preserve my bodycam, Monroe said. The room quieted. Nolan looked at her. Do you have a problem with the arrest, Sergeant? I have a problem with being told the call was active when it was not. His smile vanished. Be careful. About what? Confusing a timing issue with disloyalty. He stepped closer. You were given an opportunity to stand with this department against a woman who thinks her stars make her untouchable. Do not make me wonder which side you chose. Monroe returned to her desk. She did not confront him again. She did something more useful. She opened her personal email and wrote down every word she remembered. Then she attached a photograph of her patrol terminal. The screen showed no active event for the Shaw Pike address. In the corner was the time, 9:17 and 48 seconds. She sent the email to herself, closed the browser, and returned to work. Nolan believed he had frightened her into silence. Instead, he had created the first witness who understood that his greatest weakness was not the arrest. It was everything he kept doing afterward to prove he had been in control. Dana's preservation notices reached the campaign vendor at 3:12 in the afternoon. At 3:41, someone logged into the vendor's storage portal using an administrator account assigned to Nolan's campaign manager. The device token belonged to Tyler's editing workstation. At 4:06, the local recording from my mother's kitchen was marked corrupted. At 4:13, the storage card was reformatted. At 4:22, the vendor emailed Dana and said no native file had ever been retained. 3 records changed status in 70 minutes. Dana printed the access log and placed it on the table between us. "They are not deleting evidence," she said. "They are performing maintenance. They are creating paperwork that says the evidence never existed." The city moved almost as quickly. Northbridge Police reported that Sergeant Monroe's body camera file had been placed under supervisory review because the arrest involved the chief's family. Then the file became temporarily unavailable because of a server migration. The vehicle location system produced a map, but Nolan's attorney attached a declaration stating that unit clocks could drift by several minutes. The dispatch center supplied the event time, then warned that calls could be entered after officers were already responding. Every record arrived with an explanation sewn to it. By evening, Nolan stood outside headquarters and announced that my conspiracy theory had collapsed. "There is no secret video," he said. "There is no missing call. There is a frightened wife, an unlawful entry, and a senior officer trying to bury local police beneath technical jargon." A reporter asked why the campaign vendor had reformatted its storage after receiving a preservation notice. Nolan smiled. "Routine maintenance is not obstruction just because a general dislikes the footage." The clip cut to my mother's kitchen again. This time the campaign added a red circle around the key and the words "forced entry." My command extended the access restriction. The police association scheduled a rally for the following Saturday. Nolan's lead climbed to 11 points. Dana hired Dr. Owen Park that night. He worked from a digital laboratory outside Baltimore and refused to touch a file until he knew who had possessed it, copied it, exported it, and renamed it. He examined the 48-second clip first. "This is not the original," he said. "It has been rendered and trimmed more than once. These timestamps belong to editing software, not the camera." "Can you recover what came before it?" I asked. "Not from this." Dana showed him the access log. "I can prove the storage portal was opened after notice, and the card was reformatted," he said. "To prove what was erased, something else has to remember it." Something else, that was the phrase that kept the case alive. The campaign camera had watched the kitchen. But the kitchen had not been the only thing watching. Dana sent investigators door to door. At the 4th house, Arthur Bell produced a native doorbell file. The image was almost black parked vehicles, my car passing, no readable faces or plates. Nolan's attorney would call it useless. At 1:13 that morning, Dana's office was empty except for the server fans and the compressor inside the vending machine. Park had gone to secure Arthur's original file. Dana had gone to obtain the city communications export. I remained alone with cold coffee, the campaign clip, and a forensic copy of the doorbell recording. I ignored the cold coffee and played the doorbell file again. Then the freight train sounded, 2 long blasts, 1 short. 1 long. I stopped the recording. I opened the campaign export and played the moment Nolan ordered me onto my knees. The same horn sounded beneath his voice, fainter, cut in the middle. But present, the campaign timestamp placed the horn in the wrong minute. The clocks could drift, the train could not. I opened a clean evidence index and began building the sequence. I listed what each record was. Who had possessed it, how it had been acquired, which copy had been hashed, and which independent source could verify it. The detail Nolan had overlooked was not hidden in a line of code. It was a freight train crossing Northbridge on a fixed route. When Dana returned, I rotated the screen toward her. "The clocks can lie," I said. "The train can't." She looked at the 2 waveforms. "How far did he move the clip? I need 1 more independent recording." The city phone system had captured a supervisor calling Sergeant Monroe before the dispatch event opened. The recording had no video and a clock Nolan's attorney had already challenged. Park returned while Dana was loading the export. He verified the acquisition logs, then played the city call. A man's voice said, "Hold where you are, Chief wants the channel clean." Then beneath the final word the train horn began. Two long, one short, one long. I aligned the doorbell audio with the city call. Park checked my offsets and locked the waveforms. The patrol cars were on the street while the supervisor was ordering Monroe to remain silent. The public dispatch event still did not exist. It was not enough to prove Nolan had planned an arrest. But it destroyed his claim that the officers had arrived only after a spontaneous emergency. Dana's phone rang before we could speak, Sergeant Monroe's attorney. Monroe had been removed from patrol. Official reason, failure to follow supervisory communication procedures. Actual reason, she had refused to amend her report. Her attorney sent one photograph, a patrol terminal. No active event at the Shaw Pike address, time displayed in the corner. 9:17 and 48 seconds. Below the photograph was the email Monroe had written to herself after Nolan's squad room threat. I gave the general exactly enough rope to hang herself. Dana read the line twice. That is not a confession, she said. No, it is better. Why? Because he said it after the arrest, before he knew which systems survived. By dawn, the evidence package filled 47 pages. It contained 7 native files, 4 authenticated exports, 3 preservation notices, 2 vehicle location records, 1 dispatch history, Monroe's terminal photograph, her contemporaneous email, and a chain of custody table for every copy. Park signed the technical authentication, Dana signed the legal acquisition index. I built the timeline, identified the missing interval, and placed the records in the order that allowed them to speak without a speech from me. The first page carried one line, 11 minutes 43 seconds. 3 weeks after the arrest, on the morning after we completed the evidence package, Nolan's campaign announced a county public safety town hall. The poster placed Nolan beside retired 4-star General Marcus Vance. Across the bottom ran one promise in red letters: an American commander will expose military privilege. Nolan had lost control of 3 clocks, so he built a larger stage. The Harrow County Civic Hall looked less like a government building than a campaign headquarters. Red key pins covered the first 6 rows, police association banners hung beneath the county seal. Behind the lectern, my arrest looped beside my mother's second statement. I never called Avery. I was frightened. The white tape, the medication bag, and the 8 minutes before the live stream remained invisible. Nolan entered to a standing ovation. His poll lead had reached 13 points. Donations had crossed $800,000. My classified access was still suspended. The charges were still active. He had built the largest false victory of his life. General Marcus Vance sat beside the lectern with a folder on his lap. Nolan introduced him as an American commander who understands that even generals must answer to local law. The crowd applauded again. Vance did not. He had returned from an overseas infrastructure conference that morning. Nolan's staff had given him a 1-page briefing describing me as an estranged relative who had exaggerated a junior reserve technology position to intimidate police. They had not shown him my full name. They had not shown him the native video. And they had placed a prepared statement inside his folder. Dana saw the first page from our seats, forced retirement review request. Beneath it was a county petition asking military authorities to remove me permanently from command. Nolan had invited a 4-star general to read my professional execution aloud. He touched 2 fingers to the microphone beneath his lapel. The livestream counter jumped. Tonight, he said, General Vance will explain why military prestige cannot shield Major. He stopped before saying my rank. His eyes moved toward me in the aisle. Then he smiled. Miss Avery Shaw. Vance followed his gaze. For 1 second he stared without recognition, then he stood. Major General Shaw. The hall went quiet so quickly I heard someone drop a red key pin. Nolan laughed into the microphone. She advises a reserve technology unit, General. Her resume has become part of the intimidation campaign. Vance did not look at him. Were you the officer who commanded the tri-state continuity response during the Dover ransomware emergency? Yes, sir. She did not advise that response, Vance said. She commanded it. A murmur moved through the room. Nolan recovered. Then her real rank makes her conduct worse. Vance finally turned toward him. What exactly were you told about her before you asked me to stand here? Nolan's campaign attorney stepped forward. This is not a personnel hearing. No, Vance said, it is apparently an endorsement event. He opened the folder. The prepared statement carried his name beneath a block of text he had never seen. The count petition used a scanned image of his signature. Vance held the page up. I did not sign this. The audience shifted. Nolan reached for the folder. General, that is a draft. Vance moved it beyond his hand. My signature is not a drafting tool. Inspector Elena Ruiz rose from the side table. General, may my office preserve that document? Vance handed it to her. Preserve every version. Nolan's campaign attorney whispered urgently into his ear. Nolan ignored him. He pointed toward me. This woman is on administrative restriction because even her own command knows she is dangerous. Vance's expression changed. Who gave you information from an internal military review? Nolan froze. It lasted less than a second, but the live stream captured it. Dana stood. That is one of the records our preservation notice requested. The screen behind Nolan still showed me on my knees. Ruiz placed the unsigned petition beside a county laptop. Before General Vance makes any further statement, she said, the public should see what occurred before that image began. Nolan grabbed the microphone. There is nothing before it. A second screen came alive. 4 audio tracks appeared. I carried the evidence package to the county table and placed it beside the laptop. 47 pages struck the wood with a flat crack. In the silence afterward, I heard the building's ventilation system and one red key pin rolling beneath a chair. Park had authenticated the files. Dana had secured the public filing that allowed the records to be shown. Ruiz had secured the evidence presentation. But I had built the sequence and I was the one who turned the screen toward Nolan. Then the freight train sounded through the hall, 2 long blasts. One short, one long. Nolan had invited Vance to finish my career. Instead, he had placed a false endorsement, a leaked military restriction, and the first synchronized evidence of his staging under the same live camera. The train rolled through the Civic Hall speakers again. I placed 4 waveforms across the screen, the campaign recording, the neighbor's doorbell, Sergeant Monroe's body camera, the city communications call. I looked at Nolan. Their clocks disagree. The train does not. Nolan folded his arms. You can move audio anywhere on a screen. Park answered from the authentication table. That is why General Shaw used separate anchors. I verified every source and every offset. I placed the campaign export beside an automatic proxy recovered from Tyler's workstation. At 9:18 and 2 seconds, Tyler started the local recording and clapped 3 times. The claps linked the export to the longer proxy. My key entering the side door linked that proxy to the public stream. The train linked the inside recordings to Monroe's body camera, the doorbell file, and the city call. The clocks snapped into sequence. A county map appeared beside them. Monroe's patrol car entered my mother's block at 9:14 and 32 seconds. The second unit arrived at 9:15 and 13. Her patrol terminal photograph showed no active event at 9:17 and 48. Tyler began recording at 9:18 and 2. My car entered at 9:23 and 8. The train sounded at 9:25 and 41. The public livestream began seconds later. The dispatch event opened at 9:26 and 15. 11 minutes and 43 seconds separated the first patrol car's arrival from the official creation of the call. I placed one finger on the first page of the evidence package. 11 minutes, 43 seconds, Nolan pointed at the screen. Precautionary deployment. Ruiz did not argue. She played the city call. A captain's voice filled the hall. Hold where you are. Chief wants the channel clean. The train horn began beneath his final word. Nolan's attorney stood. Officers are staged without radio traffic every day. Ruiz clicked again. The patrol terminal photograph appeared. No active incident. Then Monroe's email. I gave the general exactly enough rope to hang herself. The hall shifted toward Nolan. He smiled without humor. A disgruntled sergeant writing down gossip after a lawful arrest. Then let her speak, Dana said. Nolan's head turned. Sergeant Leah Monroe rose from the side aisle in civilian clothes. 2 officers near the exit looked away from her. She walked to the microphone carrying no folder. No uniform, no badge, only the campaign pin the police association had given her. She placed it on the lectern. Chief Pike told us to remain off radio until his videographer was ready, she said. We were staged for a call that did not yet exist. Nolan stepped toward her. You were told there was a credible family threat. I asked who reported it, and you told me the report would exist when she entered. A sound moved through the audience, not applause. Recognition. Nolan reached for the microphone. His attorney caught his arm. Do not. Nolan pulled free. She is protecting the general because she knows military power can destroy her career. Monroe looked directly at him. You removed me from patrol because I would not change my report. The screen behind her changed. Ruiz displayed redacted operational records from the campaign manager's preserved cloud account and Tyler's court-secured workstation. Nolan's phone had not yet been searched. The records included a screenshot Nolan had forwarded to the campaign manager, campaign team messages, Tyler's edit logs, and the roster exchange. Each item carried its source, export hash, and transmission time. Personal content had been removed. Only the instructions used to stage the arrest and exploit the military roster remained. The first exhibit was the screenshot Nolan had forwarded after directing my mother's message. 2 missed calls first, then send, use the red key. Come alone, no extra words. The next thread came from the campaign manager's account. She is moving, 2 units nearby, no lights. Hold radio, Tyler goes live after she crosses, open CAD when I signal. Nolan read them with his jaw locked, contingency instructions. I looked at the transmission time, before the call existed. Ruiz displayed the next excerpt. Need the first clean record before she starts using rank. General Vance lowered his eyes. Dana did not move. Neither did I. I opened the next section of the package, Tyler's edit decision list and administrator log. Nolan had designed the arrest. Tyler had engineered the record and the erasure. He built the crop that removed the suitcase and white tape, published the first cut, and used the campaign manager's credentials from his own workstation to reformat the storage card after Dana's preservation notice. Another authenticated exchange appeared. The Harrow County Emergency Management Liaison had sent Nolan's campaign manager a screenshot of the revised Chesapeake Continuity Exercise roster. Got the guard roster change. A reply from Nolan's campaign account came 30 seconds later. Say her own command removed her. The campaign had not penetrated my chain of command. It had used a county partner's access to turn an administrative update into political ammunition before the written notice reached me. Park opened the recovered proxy file. The image was lower quality than the live stream, but the 8 minutes before it were intact. Tyler adjusted the camera. He clapped 3 times. Nolan placed white tape on the kitchen floor. My mother stood beside her suitcase. Why are the officers already outside? She asked. Nolan looked toward the side door. Because this only works if she believes she still has a choice. Someone in the first row gasped. The police association president removed his guest badge and walked out of the row. A campaign volunteer tore the red key pin from her jacket. Tyler Mott lowered his head as footage from his own camera continued behind him. Nolan took my mother's phone, then her medication bag. He placed both behind him. Read it again. I don't want to. You want the county to watch her drag you out of your own home? My mother lowered her head. Nolan pointed at the paper. Tell them you never called. The rifle froze on his hand above her statement. For 3 weeks, Nolan had called my mother's words her truth. Now the audience had seen the rehearsal. His campaign attorney moved toward the control table. End the stream. The county technician blocked him. Nolan seized the center microphone. This is manipulated. Park answered from his seat. The proxy was created automatically before the storage card was reformatted. The audio is independently synchronized. The workstation is preserved under court order. You think a few computer lines erase what she did? Nolan pointed at me. She walked into my house and made me look powerless in front of my own wife, my own officers, my own county. His attorney grabbed for the microphone. Nolan shoved him away. I built that scene because people like her walk into a room and make men like me look small. The words struck harder than shouting. No one interrupted him. He turned toward Vance. You saw what happened. She carries those stars like a weapon. Vance's voice stayed level. You are the only person here who used her rank before she did. Nolan's face darkened. I needed the county to see her in handcuffs before they ever saw her stars. Silence swallowed the hall, then every phone in the first 6 rows lifted at once. Nolan finally understood the live stream had not ended. Inspector Ruiz closed the evidence file. Chief Pike, preserve your official phone and do not access any campaign system. The city manager stood beside her. Effective immediately, you are placed on administrative leave. Nolan stared at him. You cannot do this to me in my own hall. The city manager looked at the county seal behind the campaign banners. This was never your hall. Two state investigators moved toward the lectern. Nolan stepped back. For the first time that night, no camera position had been marked for where he was supposed to stand. The consequences began before Nolan left the Civic Hall. The police association suspended its endorsement while the live stream was still active. His treasurer froze campaign expenditures tied to the event. By midnight, Nolan's 13-point lead had become a 5-point deficit. By morning, 3 former officers had contacted Ruiz about earlier arrests staged for cameras. The state prosecutor dismissed the charges against me 9 days later. The filing said the available evidence could not support trespass, obstruction, or interference at trial. My command restored my access the same afternoon. Colonel Mercer called before the official notice reached me. "Your chair is still at the operations table," she said. "I know. No, ma'am. I mean, no one sat in it. I returned to the Chesapeake continuity exercise without a press conference." Nolan did not return to headquarters. After obtaining the required warrants, state investigators took custody of his official phone, the campaign server, and the storage devices his staff had tried to erase. The mirrored threads on Nolan's phone confirmed the operational excerpts already authenticated from the campaign manager's cloud account and Tyler's workstation. The city opened a separate review of every incident in which police resources had appeared beside campaign cameras. The county emergency management liaison, who forwarded the restricted roster notice, was placed on leave and referred to the Ethics Commission. Nolan was not convicted that week. He still had lawyers. He still claimed the town hall had been manipulated. But he no longer had command of the department, control of the campaign, or the first version of the story. 22 days after the town hall, the state attorney filed charges of evidence tampering, witness coercion, official misconduct, unlawful use of police resources, and conspiracy to falsify public records. Tyler was charged in the same filing with evidence tampering and conspiracy to falsify public records. Within 31 days, the campaign refunded $412,000 in unspent contributions. The city filed a civil recovery claim for $186,000 in police overtime, equipment use, and records restoration. Sergeant Monroe returned to patrol under a different commander. Her disciplinary notice was withdrawn. The city's retaliation policy became part of the investigation. General Vance issued one public sentence. I attended a county resilience event. I endorsed no candidate, authorized no signature, and witnessed no military privilege, only an abuse of local authority. Nolan's campaign website disappeared before noon. My mother disappeared first. While Nolan was still arguing with investigators at the hall, the former co-worker Dana had been using as an intermediary, drove Susan to her own home at an address I did not know. Susan took one suitcase, her medication, her own phone. She did not go to the press. She did not make a new video. She did not become the final witness in my victory scene. For 12 days she did not tell me where she was. After the evidence clerk returned my phone and the red key, I rented a small apartment near Annapolis. I stocked the kitchen, labeled the medication drawer, and made the bed before recognizing I was building another plan around decisions my mother had not made. I gave the intermediary the plain brass apartment key and the old side door key with its red cord. I did not know whether Susan would use either one. On the 13th morning, the intermediary sent me a message. She wants coffee at 10. Do not arrive early. I reached the apartment at exactly 10 and sat on the living room floor beside an unopened lamp box. A key turned in the lock. I did not stand. My mother entered carrying the same suitcase from the live stream. The apartment key in her hand was still plain brass. I lied on his camera, she said. I know. I thought it was the only way to keep him from hurting you. That lie belongs to the room where he forced it out of you. It does not belong to the internet. Her eyes moved across the labeled medication drawer, emergency numbers, folded towels, and food I had chosen. You still planned everything. I looked at the apartment. She was right. I had defeated Nolan's attempt to control the record and then tried to control what came after it. I should have asked, yes, what do you want now? She took the old side door key from her pocket. For years the red cord had meant danger. Come alone, get me out. She untied it slowly and wrapped it around the plain brass apartment key. I want to decide tomorrow when tomorrow comes. That is enough. We made coffee and sat on the kitchen floor. Nolan had believed power meant choosing where the camera started. He was wrong. Power was preserving what happened before the red light came on. Justice was making him answer for it, and dignity was refusing to turn my mother's fear into the final piece of content that destroyed him. The new red key rested between us. This time it did not mean rescue. It meant the door would open only when she chose. Some people will recognize this story even if no campaign camera has ever pointed at them. Control does not always begin with handcuffs. Sometimes it begins with a password someone else refuses to share. A car key that disappears before an appointment, a bank statement redirected to another address. A prescription counted by the person who claims to be protecting you. A sentence rehearsed until your own voice no longer sounds like yours. Sometimes the person controlling the room does not need everyone to believe every lie. He only needs to create the first clean record, the text without the threat that came before it. The photograph without the suitcase beside it. The video that begins after the cameras have been positioned and the witnesses have been told where to stand. Once that record exists, everyone who arrives later is asked to judge a life from the moment the red light came on. That is why silence can be misunderstood. People see someone hesitate and assume consent. They see a victim repeat the controller's language and assume agreement. They see a daughter arrive with a key and assume intrusion. They do not see the medication bag lifted just outside the frame. They do not hear the instructions given before the live stream. They do not know how many times a person tried to leave before fear taught her to call the cage a home. My mother lied on Nolan's camera. That fact did not disappear when the full recording surfaced. What changed was the meaning of the lie. It was no longer evidence that she feared me. It became evidence of the pressure surrounding her. Context did not erase her words. It returned ownership of them to the person who had been forced to speak. There is a difference between exposing a lie and using someone's pain as ammunition. I could have placed my mother behind a podium. I could have asked her to describe every private humiliation Nolan had created. I could have turned her fear into the final exhibit and called it justice. The audience would have understood. The cameras would have stayed. The story might even have traveled farther. But dignity is not measured by how completely you destroy the person who harmed you. It is measured by what you refuse to destroy while stopping him. My mother was not evidence to be consumed. She was not the final witness in my victory scene. She was a person whose choices had been narrowed for years, and the purpose of opening a door was not to replace Nolan's control with mine. I had spent my career building systems that could continue operating after an attack. Redundant networks, independent records, clear chains of command. Evidence that did not depend on one person remembering perfectly under pressure. Those skills helped me uncover what Nolan staged, but they did not automatically teach me how to love someone without taking over the mission. I thought preparedness meant solving every problem before my mother reached it. The stocked kitchen, the labeled medication drawer, the folded towels, the apartment waiting like an order already issued. She looked at all of it and saw another person deciding what tomorrow should be. She was right. Protection without choice can begin to resemble the thing it claims to oppose. The intentions may be different. The outcome may still be a locked room designed by someone else. The hardest boundary I learned was not the one I placed between Nolan and me. It was the boundary that stopped me from turning my competence into authority over my mother's recovery. You are allowed to preserve what happened to you. You are allowed to write down dates, save messages, photograph documents, and keep copies somewhere the person controlling you cannot reach. You are allowed to ask an independent attorney, advocate, doctor, officer, counselor, or trusted friend to hold a record. You are allowed to seek help before you can explain every detail in perfect order. Fear interrupts memory, coercion changes language. Survival rarely produces a clean first draft. You are also allowed to move slowly. Leaving can be dangerous. Speaking publicly is not the price of being believed. Forgiveness is not a requirement for safety. Reconciliation is not proof of healing. You do not owe anyone a dramatic confrontation, a public statement, or a final conversation that gives them one more chance to control the room. A quiet boundary is still a boundary. A door you choose not to open is still yours. And when you help someone, remember that rescue is not ownership. Offer the ride, keep the spare room ready, save the number. Hold the documents, believe what they tell you, but let them decide when to turn the key whenever safety allows. Support should widen a person's choices, not replace them with a better-intentioned set of commands. For years, Nolan taught me that silence meant weakness. In the military, I learned that silence could be discipline. During the investigation, I learned that silence could be strategy. Sitting on that kitchen floor with my mother, I learned one more thing. Silence can also be space, the space in which another person finally hears her own decision without some stronger rushing to complete the sentence. I never wanted revenge. I wanted the truth placed where Nolan could no longer crop it, rename it, or begin it at the moment most useful to him. I wanted the officer's arrival times beside the dispatch record. I wanted the white tape beside the claim of spontaneity. I wanted my mother's suitcase and medication bag restored to the frame. I wanted every record to carry the minutes Nolan had tried to erase. The law would decide what punishment followed. The voters would decide what happened to his campaign. The department would decide how many earlier cases had been contaminated by the same appetite for a clean public image. Those consequences mattered, but they were not the final measure of what we recovered. My mother recovered the right to decide where she slept. Monroe recovered the report she had refused to falsify. My command restored the chair Nolan had tried to empty with a 48-second clip. And I recovered something rank had never guaranteed me, the ability to stand inside a false story without becoming the person it described. The first record is powerful because it asks everyone else to begin where the liar chose. The answer is not always a louder accusation. Sometimes the answer is patient preservation. One independent file, one witness who writes down what was said. One system clock the controller forgot. One train moving through the dark on a route that did not care who was running for office. Truth did not save us because it arrived dramatically. It saved us because enough pieces survived independently to meet in the same place. That is what Nolan never understood. He believed control meant owning every camera. He forgot that reality leaves copies. Share this story with someone who may need the reminder that silence is not consent, preparation is not betrayal, and asking for help does not surrender ownership of a life. Subscribe for more stories where powerful people manufacture the first record and discover too late that truth was recording them too. My stepfather live-streamed my arrest to own my name, but the truth made the final record mine.